Thank you very much. Okay. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you for hosting this event this evening. There are not a whole lot of opportunities that Mr. Weisberg and I do get to present ourselves before a group, so we certainly appreciate the fact that you've made this opportunity and that you've taken times out of your schedule to be here this evening. I just wanted to let you know that when I got the invitation regarding Rally for America, I said, I'll be honest, I really am not familiar with the group Rally for America, so I went on the website and I looked it up. And what I noted that it stated that Rally for America is a civic and public policy, nonpartisan enterprise dedicated to promoting constitutional principles and good government. And I said to myself, well, I'm a judge. I am sworn to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of New York State. So right off the bat, I said, sounds like a good group. Second qualification on the website, good government. If you're not a fan of good government, I think you got problems to begin with. So with those thoughts in mind, again, I'm really pleased to be here tonight to join you to spread the word about the candidacies of not only myself, but the other candidates that are here this evening. Let me tell you a quick bit about myself, the person. I am the youngest son of a Norwegian immigrant who served during World War II for the Norwegian Merchant Marine on shore leave in about 1945 in New York City. He met the love of his life, who is my mom, who grew up during the Depression in New York City. My father immigrated to New York upon his marriage to my mom, and he was a carpenter throughout not only Rockland County, but New York City as well. For the most part, my mom was a stay-at-home mom until I was probably about 10. Since I was a baby, that was the time for her to go out and start to help leading our ways. We moved to Clarkstown when I was about 2 or 3, and basically been here ever since. Went through Clarkstown schools, graduated Clarkstown North, went to undergrad at State University of New York at Albany, and then law school at State University of New York at Buffalo. Came back here, hung out a shingle, and began my legal career some 25, 26 years ago. As far as my practice itself, I've pretty much consider myself to be a country lawyer, a family lawyer. I help families such as everybody here, whether it be with real estate closings, whether it be with, until recently, defense of criminal matters, matrimonial actions, small estate works, things of that nature. At some point about 15 years ago, Judge Warren, who was the senior family court judge in Rockland County, asked me to join his team as his part-time court attorney, which is essentially his legal advisor. I've had the privilege of retaining that position and learning the art of being a member of the judiciary from one of our best jurists in this county, in probably what is the most difficult court to be a judge, that being the family court. And then 4 years ago, I had the honor and privilege of being elected by the folks of the town of Clarkstown to serve as one of our town justices. In that role, I have handled and presided over thousands of cases ranging from the traffic summonses that Mr. Weisberg has referred to the beginnings of felony matters that come before the court prior to any action that may be taken by the Rockland County Grand Jury. Hundreds of small claims actions, landlord-tenant claims. It is a broad discretion, a wide range, I should say, of cases that the town court handles. Now, I am registered to the Democratic Party. Mr. Weisberg is registered to the Republican Party. Town justice is a position where party politics should not come into play when making a decision as to who is the best qualified. We don't handle constitutional issues. We don't handle right to life issues. We don't handle voter rights. We don't handle Obamacare, nothing of that nature. We handle things related, very good, to the interpretation of the law. And I think that when we look at the qualifications for a town judge, we need to look at somebody that has the experience of being in a courtroom, being a member of the community. I've been doing it for 25 years in one way or another. I've been everything, as I said, from a litigating attorney to the right arm of a judge, learning the law and learning how a judge should act. And the past 4 years has been an invaluable experience in actually being a judge. I thank you for your time, and if anybody has any additional questions, I'll be happy to.
Well, you already have one question.
Well, if you want me to, I'll follow up.
Yeah.
But what Mr. Weisberg said is pretty much right on point. I mean, the court tries to schedule as many cases for each particular officer as we can at the same date and at the same time, so that they're not coming and going back and forth to court sporadically. We try to do it. Now, one of the things that gets in the way sometimes is that if the officer is on the road that day, it may be impossible for him or her to actually get into court if they are on some type of an emergency. In criminal matters that are handled by the district attorney's office, we've also got to coordinate things through the district attorney's office. They don't have unlimited resources. They don't have unlimited attorneys that can come to court anytime we want, that can summon the police officers anytime they want. So that creates a problem. We've tried to streamline the process somewhat on matters related to state troopers. And what happens with the state trooper tickets is that they are processed initially by the town attorney's office. The town attorney reviews the state trooper tickets. The town attorney's office will send a letter offer of a plea to the defendant, and that they can either accept that plea by mail or they can come into court on a first appearance and discuss the matter with the town attorney. And then if the matter still is not resolved, then we will finally schedule it for trial, at which time the state trooper would need to be summoned to appear. But again, that's a policy that was initiated a few years back by the superintendent of the New York State Police. So, you know, that decision as far as the officers themselves not prosecuting their own tickets on the state trooper level was a decision not even made by the court, but made by the higher ups.
Is that something that could happen at the town level?
You know what, I suppose theoretically it could, but again, that's something that wouldn't be in the control of the court necessarily. That would be something that would have to be worked out procedurally with the police administration, but again, perhaps...
But in both your opinions, is that something, what you feel, it's a good thing to have people pursue that, or it wouldn't make sense? Because I'm up for anything that we can do to cut taxes, and if you're saying it works with the state police, if we can find out who has to say, hey, let's look at this, you know, send an initial thing, oh, you got a speeding ticket, all right, you know, you don't have any other tickets, we can knock it down to this, and if you plead guilty, and there's no police coming, it makes it all nice and simple.
Well, I mean, it could cut both ways. While it could perhaps cut time out from the officers, the burden that it places upon the town attorney's office may be overwhelming, and they may have to hire staff to make up for the additional work that would be involved with them. So the dynamics, the numbers, it's difficult for me to even fathom, I guess.
This is an additional question. So, Dan, do you want to have any input on this?
No, I think what Judge Thorsen said is correct, and we also have to look back to the history. The state police decision was motivated by factors other than economy. It was really something that they wanted to take some of the discretion out of the hands of their troopers in terms of being able to plea bargain. So everything has an upside and a downside. I don't know how much of a true savings that you would get, and certainly something that could be proposed, then I would suggest that you would propose it by way of a letter to the chief of police stating that, you know, this is just an idea that perhaps there could be some savings if we implemented or at least did a test pilot of a program. But as Judge Thorsen said, I don't know how much of a true savings there would be, because you're shifting the burden to another town agency to then handle the matter.
Any other questions? Gentlemen, I would, yes, sir.
And to interrupt you, when an elected official selectively enforces laws, what should be done?
Can I ask you to be more specific?
That's my feeling.
Well, look, for your court at this level, it's more theoretical. But when a president decides that I'm not going to enforce that law because I don't like it, versus I will enforce this one because I like it. How do we deal with that elected official, other than voting them out?
Well, I think that certainly that is how you express your displeasure in the most direct way. But as far as somebody on the level of justice court, again, we're not law enforcement per se. We are part of the process, but we don't conduct independent investigations. We don't file charges against individuals. We're not an investigative body. The charges are brought before the court, and then the court acts upon those charges. I mean, there are various bodies out there, from district attorneys to attorney generals to prosecutors, who are perhaps in the better position to look into whether there is selective enforcement, selective prosecution. And being in the private practice of law, and when I did represent people that had been charged with crimes, you would often hear from the defendant that, I'm being singled out. This person did the same thing, but why am I being singled out? And always the talk would be that either the process is being abused against me, or again, I'm being selectively prosecuted. Unfortunately, with something like that, you have to let the process run its course, and if there's a favorable resolution in favor of the person who stands accused, then that person has remedies, whether it's against the accuser or whether it's against some other entity or agency that was involved with the prosecution. But again, as far as the courts getting involved with seeking, as a judge, you have certain roles, certain ethical obligations that you have. If I find that an attorney, or if it's my opinion that an attorney is engaging in either illegal or unethical conduct, or even a litigant is committing perjury, I've got an obligation to report that person either to the district attorney, or if I find they're lying about tax returns, to report them to the Internal Revenue Service. If it's an attorney, I can report them to the Attorney Grievance Committee. If it's another judge, judges have and do report illegal or unethical conduct of other judges. So if it's something that the judge sees in his or her capacity as a judge, then there are certain things that the judge can do as far as reporting. So maybe that's a better answer to your question, that if a judge becomes aware of something, it's the obligation to report it to the agency that might have authority to take action.
One other quick question. How much discretion does a judge have to deal with the issue in terms of, I guess, do you have discretion in sentencing and fines, or?
There is a variety of ranges, whether it's for a traffic summons, it's right there in the law from point A to point B, whether it's a misdemeanor, you can sentence to this much time in jail. If it's a felony, you can sentence to this much time in jail. If it's a violation, to this much time in jail. Fines, penalties, things of that nature.
And what criteria would you use to determine, how do you determine what, if you have a range, where to fall in there?
Hold on, I can answer that. That depends on the case. The criteria depend on the case presented.
Right, well, when you're dealing with traffic tickets and things like that, how do you determine?
I'll keep it in the simplest terms as I can. When I start my Tuesday session, which is my traffic day, and I give my introductory spiel to the people that are out there, I will tell everybody that I'm a fair judge. However, for you folks sitting out there, fair may not always mean equal. Because if you come up in front of me and you plead guilty to failure to obey a traffic control device, and I can fine you up to $150. A variety of factors that I will look at. I will listen to what the police officer may have a recommendation as to what type of a fine should be imposed. Obviously, I need to consider that driver's history. I need to consider the circumstances surrounding the plea. If the person was charged with driving 100 miles in a 55-mile-an-hour zone, but the officer is giving an obvious break by reducing it from a 5-point violation to a 2-point violation, I need to consider that as well. But I always tell everybody that just because the person ahead of you pleads guilty to the same offense that you're going to plead guilty to, doesn't mean you're going to get the same fine. Everybody comes before the court with a different history, with a different set of circumstances to that particular offense. So the best I can do is be fair, but again, fair doesn't always necessarily equate to being equal.
How would you answer
Well,
that?
can I go back to the prior question?
Sure.
And then we'll come back to this one. You know, in terms of what people can do, again, Judge Thorsen hit the nail on the head, is that the public has the ultimate sword, and that is voting somebody out. But the public needs to be informed. And that's why I'm always somewhat hesitant when campaigning. And frankly, I'm not a politician, and going to include Judge Thorsen. I don't really think he's a politician either. But we go to a lot of these things and we sit with a lot of politicians. No offense. I'm not either. Okay, good. We're all on the same page then. And, you know, people have to understand the political process. And when you see the political process, and I know this group is very astute as to what goes on. And when you see the political process, up close and personal, it leaves you with, at least it leaves me with a fairly bad taste in my mouth. I'm a Republican in that I'm on the ticket as a Republican, but I actually had to steal the nomination for my own party in 2008 to run. I'm not a favored son of anybody. In fact, most people would think I'm nuts because I'm taking on a sitting incumbent. And that just doesn't happen in town justice races. And I have nothing against Judge Thorsen, but I feel that everyone should have an opportunity for choice. And that's why I decided to run again. But people need to be informed. People just do not, the same politicians get elected because people have short-term selective memories. So I applaud groups that go out, but what I do encourage people is make sure that you're basing it upon accurate facts. Because a lot of people say things, it doesn't necessarily make it accurate. Now, once you know the facts and they're accurate facts, if you don't like it, then do something about it. But the people who just complain and say, well, we should do this, we should cut that, we should cut this, we should cut that. Well, make sure that A, it can be done. Make sure that you have a solution when it does get cut. Make sure you know the ramifications of what happens. So that is the most important tool for addressing when politicians are doing things that you don't think are proper. Vote them out of office. I don't know why people don't exercise that opportunity more often. Now, as to the question regarding fines and where do you find the right point, again, I hate to agree. We don't get to fight. It's no fun. But it really comes down to what this person has done, what their record is, what are the circumstances, because every case is a little bit different. It depends on where it happened. So some things might be more egregious if they happen on a road that's perhaps filled with school children, as opposed to a road that's a desolate area in the middle of the night. So all those things have to be taken into account. The one thing that there isn't flexibility on, and these days adds greatly to the cost of any traffic offense, is surcharges. The state surcharges on these things, and the way the county's going, you may be seeing those surcharges as well. And those add a lot. So when the person gets convicted of an offense, even a relatively minor traffic offense, and they say the fine's $50, but oh boy, the surcharge is $100, $150, and you're going, wait a second, now I'm paying $200. Some of that is within the discretion of the court, but a lot of it's not. So the fact that you get found guilty of something, those surcharges come along with the price of admission, unfortunately.
Anybody else?
Motion